Okay, good to see everyone. I didn't want to interrupt you. Now, Andre's back with us. And let me see. So, are there any questions? Okay, so the end, believe it or not, the end of the semester is approaching. And one of the things we were planning to do was do a Franklin Palooza. Unfortunately, that's not going to work. I'm sorry. I can, even through your masks, I can hear your sighs of disappointment. So we need to rethink some kind of a final culminating project to make all of this worthwhile, what you have done this semester. You're looking at me like you want me to come up with something. Is that it? Okay. You see, that's the way I operated for many years quite happily, and then the whole pedagogical world changed. And we are supposed to now empower you to take charge of your education. So I don't know if what we're doing is talking ourselves out of jobs, since if you're taking care of your own education, why do you need us? As well as, I forgot recording this, the educational apparatus we have created to supervise us, but there we are. Okay, so if you want me to think of, yes,
maybe we could each just do like presentation with different facts that we learned about Benjamin Franklin from here, and like a different slide reflecting on different units that we've learned about.
That's an interesting idea. Each of us does a presentation with something about Franklin that you have learned, and okay, that's a reasonable proposal. Anyone else? Oh, yes, Joanna.
Are we doing anything with our inventions or like our projects?
Yes, you are doing something with your invention. See, I've jumped ahead to the end of the semester. You're still working your way through the next few weeks. Yes. So with your invention, what you will do as a group is do the invention, or whatever it is, and tape it, okay? Put it up on the blog and explain it. And yes?
Does it need to be a video, or can it just be like photos or something?
It can be photos if you'd rather do that. I should say, in the history department, someone proposed using TikTok, but I'm rather reluctant to do that since apparently you're saying, why are you shaking your head, Gordon?
No, bad idea.
Why do you say bad idea?
It's just a bad idea.
Why do you say?
Reasons.
Excuse me?
Reasons.
Reasons? Can you give us any? Because of TikTok's connections with the Chinese Communist Party, was that?
Yes.
Okay, that was my reason, okay.
Good.
So, and so it's okay if you say that now, but, no, you don't have to, since I have tenure, and presumably that means I can't be fired, although bad things could happen if you, and anyway, we can, okay, so yeah, so I'm reluctant to do that. And yeah, you can make a video, and what other kind of thing you want to do? In my other class, I had a student, these poor students, I said, make a video. And I thought it would be something like I would do, sitting in front of the computer, recording myself. This one student, she found this software program. It had music, it had all kinds of things. But wow, I couldn't do this. And everyone else then who presented after her was really, anyway. So, does that answer your question?
Yes.
What was the answer?
Just like it can be a photo or it can be a video.
It can be a photo or it can
Just
be a
as long as
video.
it's like explained in the text, I'm assuming?
Yes, yes, explain in the text somehow what you have done, okay? Yes, so that's good. We've sorted that one out. Now back to that, anything else on the invention thing? How's that going, by the way? Andre, have you been able to connect with your group?
Yeah. We actually met on, like this weekend, we actually got it done, so.
Great, good, good. You know.
Will we have time during class to work on that?
Okay, Thursday, for reasons that are of no concern to you, other than my own incapacity to schedule things properly, I can't be here. Okay, so Thursday, yes, that's the time you're all going to be presumably doing this, and so you can meet on Thursday and do this, do whatever you like. With the invention, not just do whatever you like. You know, if I hear that the Franklin classes like robbing 7-Eleven, certainly not something Franklin would have done. Okay, so yes. just have it done by next Tuesday. Although now I should give this group another assignment. They already finished that one.
You still gotta put it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's not, it's
Which
not fully
means-
done.
It's not fully done.
You
It's
made
like,
The product is like. It's
Okay.
produced.
Good. Anyone else? No, you don't want to admit that you're finished now. Okay. Any questions on it other than that? I mean, and now, if you say, we haven't really started, we have no idea what we're doing, you'll feel really badly because these guys are killing it here, and the rest of us are struggling along in the dark. But that's life, okay. Chloe, I thought you were raising your hand. No, you were, okay. So end of the year project. What should we do, since we're not going to be doing this for the entertainment of school children, and we'll miss out on their, yes,
Could we do it just for this class?
yep, you could.
That
What
was
do you
just that was gonna be my suggestion, like, I know Franklin Palooza is supposed to be like for school children, but could it be done in a way that it could just be for like this particular class?
It could be, yeah, there's a way we could do that, okay. I'll tell you, see, I'm an historian, so my default method is always to tell you how things came about. And for years, we did this just as part of this thing for the whole honors program, invite people. And 30 years ago, when I started teaching here, someone told me it's very easy to give a party at Suffolk and have no one show up. And it's true. It might be less true now, and you seem like a group that always shows up for things. So, but yeah, so we would invite people, and it was like pulling teeth. And so then we hit on the idea of getting groups of school children, and that worked pretty well. That's why we went there, because getting them to come here. Anyway, but yeah, if you want to do it just for this class, that's another idea. So we have one, everyone do something. Was that what you were thinking? Were you thinking of doing this?
I mean, I just assumed that since it was like currently as a group work, it would still contain as a group work, but like I don't see why it couldn't be individual as well. I feel like even the presentation could easily be a group presentation.
Yes.
It can go either way. Most of the ideas, I'm assuming, are going to be able to go either way. It's just up to you
Yeah,
as
because
a
we
professor.
could also do like a blend. I think the main idea is just sharing what we've learned with our
Yeah.
class.
Sharing what you've learned with the class, okay? And so I'm getting the sense you would rather do that in person than making a video and put it on the blog. Gordon, do you have a thought on any of that?
Yeah, I was agreeing with what you said.
Okay. I have to tell you that I can't remember from 1 minute to the next what I have said, so you should keep track. Don't say, Professor Allison said everyone gets an A, and then we'll just, okay, any other thoughts? I don't want to have Annalise and Anna and Gordon monopolizing the choices here. I'm supposed to be empowering the rest of you, and not just these three. And if they're the only ones empowered, then I'm an abject failure. And I'll have to fall on my sword and find another occupation, which I know those of you who may be pursuing other occupations would dread the prospect of running into me in your chosen field. So I want to spare you that. Yes, Joanna.
I was just gonna agree with Anna. I think it'd be fun to do our own mini,
Okay, so we will do this for the class, our own mini Franklin thing, and see how that goes. People who want to work together may. People who would prefer working on their own may. But is that kind of what you were thinking? Is anyone shaking their head saying, no, that wasn't what I was thinking at all? I was hoping we would have to write a 20-page research paper on the life of Benjamin Franklin. And Cameron, that's what you were hoping for?
I mean, I like writing papers, but I know most people don't, so.
Well, don't worry about what most people like. And by the way, I can't tell you how many times as I'm reading papers, I have to cross out the lines that say, many people think, or according to some. That's, see, I could just get to tell you this without having you write it, and then I say, no, don't say that. I think, though, you're probably right. There's a real benefit to writing, as you know. Yes, of course.
So maybe what we could do is do a combination of everything. So like, some people could do like a presentation, or some people could do like maybe something interactive, and
Well,
then
see, Cameron just said he likes writing papers. I don't think he said he wants to write papers. But were you saying you wanted to?
I would.
You would, okay. As opposed to, okay, so you're good at interpreting.
so
I'm
like
very bad at picking up on these kinds of social clues.
maybe everyone could do like something related to Franklin in
Yes.
some way, and just
Yes.
do something. Yeah.
You got Anna first and Andre,
I
yes.
was just gonna say to build off of that, I think that the biggest thing is like if it was presented as opposed to just like writing a paper that only you would see. Like, I mean, obviously, I don't suggest everyone comes to the front of the class and reads out their paper, but just like maybe talk about why you picked the topic you chose, if you chose to write the paper, if we did it in a sense of like, pick which out of the three you would prefer doing,
Yes.
as long as it was like, wasn't biased towards if you chose to do a presentation, you're the only one presenting, whereas writing a paper, you're only seeing it.
Okay. Reasonable, yes, Andre.
Yeah, so I was gonna add on that, I feel like, so this particular assignment so I feel like it should be a choice of like what you want to do. So for example, like if say Cameron wanted to write a paper, like he could, and then maybe another group wants to create a presentation or a slideshow, like would be allowed to do so.
Okay. Okay, yes.
I would just say like picking your favorite element of the class, like if you really like satire or chess, and
Yeah.
working with that and expanding on that assignment in your own way.
That sounds like a good idea. Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't, over the next couple of days, you send me what you were thinking of doing? Okay, and that way, if it is something involving, Cameron wants to write a long research paper, that's great. If, say, 3 people are all really interested in one thing, I might put you together as a way of, again, if there's a possibility of that, and you don't want to work with anyone else, let me know that. That way I won't assign you to a group, and then suddenly you were happy finally to get rid of the sluggards who have been dogging you your entire life, and then suddenly you're back with them. Okay, so give it some thought. Think about what are some of the topics we have covered, or other things that you think would make it interesting. And again, whether you simply want to write this just for my enjoyment, or share it with the whole class, that's also your choice. Is that empowering you enough, or is that just making you do all of the work when I should be telling you what you should be doing? Okay, fair enough. So that's what we'll do. And I hope someone remembers that. So we will be able to make it through the semester and having learned something. So, good. Any other questions, thoughts on this, or thoughts on anything at all? Okay. Well then, what I wanted to do next was talk at great length about, see, we are still kind of doing science things, but also the other big thing we haven't really talked about, which is important in Franklin's life, and is, of course, well, let me ask you, what else, what other topic? So your clothing your eyes, oh my God, I can't believe he's asking us again what we should talk about, rather than just, why doesn't he know what he's going to talk about from one day to the next? And, yes.
His role in the American Revolution.
His role in the American Revolution, that's actually what I was going to say. It used to be, I would pick up a marker here and try to use it, and it wouldn't work. Now I take one out of my bag and try to use it, and it wouldn't work. Okay, good. And before we get to that, well, actually, does anyone have a clear sense of when the revolution happens? Oh, you're shaking your head no. So, okay, that's good. That's actually good. Then I get to tell you anything I want. You'll have no choice but leave it. Okay, so when I talk about the revolution, I typically, by the way, I have a bias in this, and my bias is the American Revolution all happened in Massachusetts. And in fact, we say the revolution happened here, and then they went to Philadelphia to fill out the paperwork. Because this is where things are happening, which are quite profound and important. But since Franklin's not in Massachusetts, you're going to say, how are you going to tie him in with this? And it's tough, but I can do it, but today's not the time. So it happens earlier here because here people have a certain idea about how they would run their lives. Just remember this, people in Massachusetts in the 1700s had more power over their own lives than anyone else in the British Empire. They ran their town. It was close to a democracy, and only men could vote. Only men who were property owners could vote. And there's good reason for both of those things. I think our next class, Andre is going to explain why only men should vote, right? Okay, good. And where do you have strong feelings about that? Okay, so well, we don't need to get into that particular discussion right now. I'll save that for next semester when I presumably will be at another institution if I can find work. Anyway, please don't tell President Kelly these kinds of things I say. Anyway, yeah, so you have people here with much more control over their own municipal governments and provincial government than anyone else. That's really not what concerns us. There's also this, well, the religious component is important, but again, this isn't what I was hoping to talk about today. Let's just start with something that happens in 1759 at a dinner party in Edinburgh, Scotland. And at this particular party, there were 6 people. 2 of them, I think you've heard of. Can anyone name one of them now? Just thinking, yes. Benjamin Franklin was one, yes, okay. So Benjamin Franklin was at a dinner party in Edinburgh, Scotland. And before you say, okay, this is the dinner party where they planned the American Revolution, that isn't what happened, but there is something else going on that is very important that hopefully we will all get to. And should I make you guess all 6, or do you want to just have me finally tell you something? Okay. So another person at the party was William Franklin. And another person, and it was William Robertson. Does that name mean anything to anyone? William Robertson? Okay. How about William? I just realized there are 3 people at this gathering named William. Must have been a popular name back around the time, back in the 1700s. William Cullen. Does that name mean anything to anyone in the room? So far, Benjamin Franklin's like the guy, right? You're thinking, boy, he must have had to carry the whole conversation. Another was Adam Smith. Does that name mean anything to anyone in the room? Brittany, you're closing your eyes saying, oh my God, I can't believe Adam Smith. Good. Sort of know something about Adam Smith. Okay. And the final one, David Hume. Anyone? David Hume? Okay, good. So then I have an assignment for us, and Kate Olson couldn't be with us, so we're going to form groups, and we need to have a group that will include her. So what I will ask is people who can sign into Zoom for the class and join up with Kate and do that part of it. Who's capable of doing that quickly? No, suddenly you stop raising your hands. Okay, so why don't we have, okay, Kavia, Sushi, and Kayla, and Chloe, Cameron. You might as well be in this group. Okay, so you and Kate will all be on Zoom and form a Zoom meeting. Well, actually, we have a class Zoom meeting. I could put you in a breakout room if you'd like. Why don't I do that once you've signed it? Okay, and then we will have, that's one group. And then we actually need 4 groups because I think we know enough about William Franklin. So why don't we have, you can be another group, okay? And then you can be another group. And then that leaves big group here. Okay, so this will be the groups, okay? So we have Team Kavia and Victor and Joanna and Andre. Is that it? Everyone's in a group now? Okay, good. So did I let you choose? Who you?
Yes. Yes.
Good question. Who would you choose if I were giving you that
I like put something new.
If I say which one I want,
Not necessarily.
I say one point back.
That's a good philosophical.
When was the revolution, not revolution?
Okay.
The uprising in Scotland.
So here's what we're going to do. Wait, some groups have already started, even without me saying what it is you're doing. Here I'm arguing a philosophical point with Gordon. And what I want you to do is find out about one of these people. Okay? And then you will tell the rest of us who this person was and why it is so important that they were at this particular party. Okay? And, okay? Now, Gordon wanted to choose. And did anyone else want to choose, having seen the names? Anyone else have strong feeling? I think he's not letting on that he actually knows something about this. Who would you choose?
Did I tell you?
Yeah,
Adam Smith.
he would choose Adam Smith. Okay. They're going to find out about Adam Smith. Okay. How about you guys look into William Robertson? Okay. And how about you? Excuse me? You want David Hume?
Yeah.
They've got David Hume, which leaves William Cullern here. Okay. So, okay, let me ask you another question. How do you find this out?
Google and James.
No, I'll show you what I was expecting you to do. And let me see.
All that fun stuff.
Trying to share my screen.
So I was
Oh, sorry.
I already found out something about this guy. Okay. Okay, I'm going to tell you now, since Andre's already on Google, finding out all kinds of things that aren't true. There are, on the Sawyer Library site, some extraordinary resources that allow you to be a better historian than I am, which I know is your goal in life. And some of you, I think, have already accomplished that. But there are 2 things I wanted to point out to you here on the Sawyer Library website that will be helpful to you for the rest of your life. One, if you go to the library website, and by the way, I have sat through so many presentations by the Sawyer Library people, I've almost got down the deadening way they talk that puts you to sleep. But they have great resources, okay? I think by nature librarians are kind of quiet and unassuming. Edinburgh Library website, under databases, the academics, library and archives, find articles, databases by subject. And here is history, has its own category. And you have under history, two things that are really useful at this moment. One is biography and context. So that's going to be the first place you're going to look under biography and context for your person. Then the second place, which is actually more important, is called JSTOR. And JSTOR, has anyone used this before? A couple of you, not the people I would have thought have used it before. You can search just about any academic journal. So what you're going to do is then look on JSTOR for your character and see if you can find 2 articles about him that then you don't need to read it. You'll be able to find a summary, tell us something about it. And then, in about 15 minutes or so, we will all figure out, you have 15 minutes now to learn about William Cullern, William Robertson, David Hume, Adam Smith, which is a lot. And where Gordon's going to go blind trying to do this because he's looking at all on his phone. So that's our assignment, okay? Find out what we can about your character.
And then we have to figure out why it's important that they were there, right?
Yeah, why is it important that what they might have talked about would be another thing.
Yeah. But that's important if you're talking about the upcoming revolution.
Yeah.
It'll probably about how that works.
There's this one, it's called the Hume. That's like state everywhere. This is all that has revolutionary generation. Maybe talk about.
You something?
Oh, I know.
So there's.
William Cullern.
Yeah.
The audience is there. I has a neck right here in the front.
Okay, so why would you think? And where they're having a dinner party in Edinburgh. Okay, so look up their dates and see if that makes sense.
So like,
Write it down with one letter.
I knew that much.
I know, but I think once we're done.
Yeah, it says 17, 10 to 17. I don't know. I was gonna look back at it. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
This one's out there.
I saw that.
Oh, I think, okay, so I've used Jason a few times, for like.
He was well known for his last dinner party. I sent it my other teacher. I posted it and I think it's reading everything was out to meet somebody else. Yeah, like, in his story, like, week before you click on it. Yeah.
Biography.
Yeah, biography.
And then what year did you say that this took place?
1759.
Yeah, that's.
However, we give you a broad hint. In 1759, Adam Smith wrote a very important book.
Oh, that's the other one.
That's what I was wondering. I was gonna look up what he was doing in 1759.
You read it in philosophy?
Yeah.
I'm taking ethics and civic life and we learned about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's why you didn't raise your hand earlier.
You know, I was just, he seemed really excited about it, so I was just gonna let him do his thing.
He wrote poetry too. He lied.
Both of nations were 1776. That's the one.
We wrote letters to him.
This is excessive.
Why is that?
I read it.
What does it
Like
say?
you said,
Oh,
say
no, but
in
this
his
is
first
this
request,
that's
I
like
don't know if you requested.
Did you write, were there other letters?
It has to be.
I don't know, this was just the first one I came up with. I'm a great stuff. Yeah. Things about him, so that's pretty useful.
So he's dead.
Yeah. Yeah. He died of jaundice. He died of jaundice? Yeah.
That's just not the right one.
I don't really know. So it's kind of, yeah.
And there's plenty.
Oh, I didn't realize that. 1940.
Really just sit around and get done.
I know that it's not William Bryant. William Like according to this, it literally just have a man
In the last time I saw it, I still. Oh, yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, but he was like, this guy was born in 1710, but he had whereas that guy was like.
Yeah, that's
He was probably so
I
tiny, his name was.
saw it, I saw it.
So it was not his, so it was probably William Cullern, that guy. Yes.
Yeah, honestly. It's not just one.
Well, you just have to like, not, it's like anyone for variety. Yeah.
It's like after.
Wait, hold on. You know how there's like the two.
Yeah. I mean,
It would still be under comment.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was true. It was like the tornado.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes like. I know.
And he had a part on how to poetry. So then I guess a lot of morality. But he likes to help out.
Really?
They have like grubs in the press mold that looks like choking. So it's like,
George Floyd.
They were like.
yeah, no, they have like.
Yeah, not, I mean, this one, I don't know, it's like a real biography from home, but it's just, but I mean, if you wrote a whole verse, it's Carol, is how like topics are gonna be about. So maybe it's not like, hey, so then I wrote something before, we talk about this, but this problem, and then a little bit about like. And then. Maybe I'm not like. And then we are David Bryant.
Yeah, so it's been,
Yeah, something like that.
he's almost.
Not necessarily their real.
She's not a poet.
I'm looking the wrong person.
Yeah, you're definitely not a poet. Yeah, that guy was born in 1794.
He was an American football player in 1910.
Yeah, that's us right there.
First, I saw that the first time, it said it was like the first It's like 150 years old. I read another article, it's like, this guy like.
Right, yeah, that's the 1710 to 1790, so that is the guy. No, definitely.
So what have you found?
The idea is being free from a large
Got a lot of kids. Yeah. Had a lot of kids. Yeah. Yeah.
I was right.
So how are we doing?
Edinburgh.
Yeah, I was getting the same. Like one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read the one about.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Oh, I was just saying. That's awful. So clearly he was in there because like he was like making that work in the town and that and on we have to kind of chat on how Adam Smith like we would about in the primary subjects of his book and how inequality reflects on freedom for society. How that might tie in, especially regarding the potential of rebelling against.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I was actually.
You're all grown up. Maybe like 5 or 3.
They fashion figured out. Very.
Like, I have the game. I have the game.
Someone who walked.
I gave us 5. The only thing that's annoying is the special.
Which will be fun. Yeah, we can go in the car.
My guess is that he doesn't speak much, but he's very. Yeah.
I just like to
Say
talk.
subject chemistry.
I don't know, it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
It's all about college, even though you only have
And so there's no way you're gonna be like. Yeah, well, when I read about it, I was telling you all.
It's not
Yeah, two very different lives.
Yeah.
Well, it's not.
Because it hurts. Right before
And this is the second night that
It's a bit chill.
Yeah. I don't know, it says every gentleman. For the Georgians, one presented the full game, where conscious meat. And that's how we do it when you park yourself.
I need a stroke or something.
Yeah.
And it's like-
And I think for major concentration.
Yeah, and it said that like, it was really
So that, I,
wasteful, usually they give the leftovers to service.
also, I got into
Very 13 people. You guys probably need a lot.
sometimes it's like almost.
No, I was worried about it too. My friends with the show were like,
Go well.
It's called Adam Smith works, don't work. Yeah.
yeah, I think you changed. Oh,
It actually really looked well. Just haven't.
yeah, I mean, I would probably.
It's actually right here in John from Boston. Oh, I'm just doing. Yeah,
I don't
so-
know.
Um,
I think it's Scottish. Obviously, then we're good, yeah. Right, I just don't know. Yeah.
It's nearly so.
No, trust me, I know.
Philosopher, so like
Huh?
everything that.
My student honestly, like I always know that, because I say, you hear me tell me Yeah, exactly, like, I'm not really right on, so I
Literally right here, you get out until the end of June. So that, summer now. Yeah, I wrote the wall. Not really.
But like I haven't even.
Yeah, 'cause I know a couple kids that are in my school. I'm not sure.
And I'm waiting here.
I think you guys would be very good.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, these are obviously.
Okay, why don't we, wrap up what we're doing? Not that you learned enough about your subject. So, why don't we start, we'll go in alphabetical order, okay? So, who's William Cullern? What's he up to? Yes.
So, he was a physician in Scotland, but he was also
British, it says it both, but I think he was managing Scotland.
Well, wait a minute, what's the difference between being Scottish and being British?
So Scottish people are from Scotland,
Yes.
which is a different country than the UK, which is where British people come from.
No, you're close, but way off.
Was Scotland part of the UK?
Scotland is part of the United Kingdom because back in 1706, the Kingdom of Scotland and actually the parliaments were joined. We're separate countries. And then in early 1600s, James, who was the sixth king of Scotland, became James the First of England. So he was James the First of England, James the Sixth of Scotland. He was there, there was a big dispute over the crown and so on, and he was in line for both. And so the two crowns were united then. And since 1604, whenever James became king, the king or queen of England has also been the king or queen of Scotland. Then in 1706, the two parliaments were joined so that Scotland became part of the United Kingdom. That is the Parliament of England, the Parliament of Scotland. You may recall about 5 years ago or so, there was a move by the Scots to secede from the United Kingdom. They had a referendum which didn't work, but there's a background here. Does anyone know any Scottish people? The last thing you want to do is call them English, because the English and the Scots, in fact, in 1745, so 14 years before this episode, there was an attempt by the Scots to actually rebel against the British crown, and actually they latched on to a pretender to the British throne, Bonnie Prince Charlie, and the English wiped them out at Cullen. Anyway, you see, some of us still have very strong feelings about this. But anyway, so Britain includes all of the British Isles. So Irish people also are British, but don't call them English either. Okay, so it's like 4 small countries, not really one big happy family. Anyway, go on. You're doing great on it.
But anyway, so he did a lot to improve sciences and make chemistry into its own field of study, as it was previously included with medicine and such. But we also found that it was on Ben Franklin's recommendation that he even came to Edinburgh. Edinburgh, sorry, I was reading it. It looked like Berg. Anyways, but to teach the study of physics and his what he's learned in the medical fields and
So wait a minute. Franklin, what was Franklin doing recommending that people come to Edinburgh to teach?
Not what we were recommended to learn. We were learning about William Cullern.
No, I'm just curious how Franklin gets into getting people jobs in Edinburgh, and we haven't even got to what he's doing there. Anyone else? I mean, you're doing great. I don't want to make you the only person who's has anything. Yes?
Well, it said he had a great medical reputation, so that's probably why he also went over there. And
Well, where was he from originally?
I don't know a specific place, but
He was born in Hamilton, Scotland.
So Cullen is from Scotland, and Hamilton, I'm guessing, is a smaller place, and he moves to the big city of Edinburgh. And, okay. Rose, do you have anything to add?
I saw that he was teaching chemistry at the University of Edinburgh, and he has a partner that he was teaching there, named George Forrest. So he was publishing a lot of chemistry books and discovering formulas and stuff like that.
Okay, so he's doing lots of stuff with chemistry, and Anna said he kind of makes it into a science of its own. Okay. Anyone else have anything to add about William Cullern? How easy was it to find stuff about him?
There were only a few scholarly sources on him, so there wasn't really much to grasp.
Anyone else with similar names that you ran into?
There's a lot of William Cullens.
But they have a Bryant at the end of them.
Yeah.
William Cullen Bryant is one person who was an American poet in the 19th century.
A football player.
There's a football player, okay, and you eliminated them as being a possibility at the Edinburgh dinner party in September of 1759. Okay, any questions about William Cullen? Now that we know more about him. Okay, then let's see. That would bring us to David Hume. Good job, by the way, on uncovering Cullen. What's up with David Hume?
I guess one thing about him is he was an enlightened philosopher,
but he was known for his empiricist philosophy, which basically meant that he felt that all knowledge had its origin in sense experience.
Interesting. So all knowledge has its origin in experience.
Yeah, so like things you can see, touch, sound, hear.
As opposed to what? Where else would knowledge come from?
Like rationalism, which would have been like reason and stuff that like you can't necessarily see, but stuff you can like think.
Okay. Was there another philosopher? I mean, you're doing, I just don't mean to start grilling you now, Kel, as though suddenly you're, a candidate for a PhD in philosophy, and I'm asking you really tough questions. But has there been any philosophical theory about where ideas come from before this, as opposed to empiricism? That is what you can see.
I'm gonna say yes, but I don't know specifics. I just know that both Plato and Socrates also had their own philosophies on this that were definitely different than Hume's.
Yes, they did. Anyone else know? I've heard people talking about being in philosophy classes, which I have to confess, I have never done. So you're ahead of me on this. Well, there's a whole philosophy by which the world operated for many years about ideas being innate. That is, you have certain innate knowledge. And so Hume is where does he stand on that? Innate ideas versus experience.
Well, Hume definitely doesn't agree with like that we all have like innate ideas. He
Right.
thinks that we can only know things if we can see them or
Right.
touch them.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, exactly. And John Locke, who is another, was an English philosopher, had said the idea of the tabula rasa, that is the blank slate, that you're born without innate ideas, you learn them, you learn things. Okay, good. That's actually much more than I was expecting about Hume. You really got at the philosophical underpinnings of Hume because okay, anyone else have thoughts on Hume? Yes.
Well, at the dinner party, when I read, it said that he didn't really speak much, but what he said, like everyone like listened to him and thought that it was good. So I'm guessing he was pretty influential.
Okay, you would be right. Very influential. You actually got to what was happening at the dinner party. You found stuff about the dinner party.
Like a little bit, yeah.
Did anyone else find out about the dinner party itself? Okay. Anything else we learned about Hume? So we've got Hume's a philosopher. Does he do anything else? Yes.
I mean, he wrote a lot of letters back and forth with Benjamin Franklin.
So
it seemed that they had a relationship of some sort.
Okay, so he corresponds a lot with Franklin. Anything else about him? I have to say that if we were going to ask any group, aside from this one, for whom David Hume was not an innate idea, I mean, you all came in as blank slates and asked what you know about David Hume, and the first thing, Gordon, you've got anything more about David Hume? It's like you're Googling David Hume to get the inside story of him. He is known as a philosopher. In fact, there's a David Hume Society, which is mainly philosophers. But at this time, and in the 1900s, 1800s, I should say, he was mainly known for another kind of writing he did, which Voltaire said actually was the best writing of this kind ever written in any language. Anyone know? Did you get at what else he writes? In fact, the year of the dinner party, I'm sorry, now it sounds like I'm grilling you for not picking up the particular piece of information. I was hoping you would. I mean, Sushi even had the menu at this dinner party. You did too?
That's what I just found.
Okay, so what were they eating?
So for their like main dishes, they had oysters, marrows, pâtés, vegetables, and for the seconds, they had like cutlets and sauce, sweetbread, roast fowl, pork, beef, lamb, and roast game.
Wow. They were eating.
Yeah.
Okay. Hume also was quite fat. You found that out, Chloe? Thing.
Yeah, he wasn't a lover.
Wasn't what?
He wasn't a good lover.
Okay, I'll take that. Okay. There is a story about Hume walking on one of the roads in Edinburgh that goes over a swampy area, and he stumbled and fell into this swamp, and being so fat, he couldn't get out. And a group of Scottish women came along, and he said, "Can you help me?" Did you come across this story? I don't know if it's a famous enough story. And they said, "He's David Hume, the atheist." And they wouldn't help him until he recited the Lord's Prayer. And he said those women were the best theologians I had ever met. So, so he was also known for his views on religion. Did you get anything? Oh, now Sushi's nodding. Yes, so what were his views on religion?
He believed that it was like all like conceptual. He was a skeptic
Yes.
as well as an atheist. So
Yeah, it might be unfair to call him an atheist because he was a skeptic.
Yeah.
That he's looking for proof of things. He's looking for not just reason, but. So, in fact, I was thinking of having you in the group, Emma, because Hume also has an entire essay on miracles. Did you get to that? His essay on miracles? He doesn't think miracles happen. Okay. So, yeah. So you would have been one of those women saying, "Say the Lord's Prayer, buddy," or you're not getting out of it. So Hume, skeptic, philosopher, but we still haven't gotten to what was considered his real greatest achievement in the time he was alive, which is, let me see, he actually did finish something, yeah. The reason someone like me would really find him very captivating, although these many years later. You don't know. He's an historian. He wrote an 8-volume history of England. And so I was thinking of assigning it this semester, but I decided not to. So, okay, so Hume, historian, philosopher, skeptic, big eater. Anything else? Okay, have I pretty much killed the conversation? You can see why I'm not at many dinner parties, because the obvious reason. Hume doesn't talk a lot. Do you get the sense that Cullen talked a lot of this? No, or you don't get a sense of whether
I didn't really get a sense of what was happening.
Okay, good. Okay, so good. Let's move on from David Hume. And Hume said Franklin and he correspond a lot.
Yeah, there's at least like 5 letters total back and forth afterwards from 1760 on.
Okay. Franklin stays at his house at one time too. Arrived in Edinburgh, doesn't have a place to stay, so goes to stay with David Hume. Okay, let's talk then about William Robertson. Yeah.
So he was a Scottish historian and also a minister. He wrote this book called The History of Scotland. And he also started a book about the history of America, but
Wow.
finished it.
When did he start that?
I don't know.
I think it was mid-70s.
Mid-17.
Like, I don't remember exactly.
Was it before the Revolution, after the Revolution?
Hold, please.
I know that it was like, people didn't like it.
Really? Even though he didn't finish it? Well, who didn't like it?
I don't know, it just said that, like, it wasn't like taken long. This is new one.
Okay, interesting. So, but he's also an historian. And He writes a history of Scotland. What kind of a minister was he? Did you get that?
He was pretty, like moderate minister. He had a lot to do with the Scottish Enlightenment
Okay.
and was like in favor of toleration of like different faiths and wanted to like relax some of the like strict rules.
Okay. Good. Good. Was this party at his house?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was the guy. Was he the one cooking the oysters and the lamb and the other? Or did he have?
The hostess of the most.
He was the hostess for the mostest. Okay. Or maybe there was a Mrs. Robertson. I don't know. Does it mention anything about the family?
He did marry his cousin.
Married his cousin.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
He was also part of something called like the Select Society. He was one of the original members.
Of the Select Society.
Yeah,
What did they do?
I think David Hume is also there.
Wow. So it's like a kind of a club.
I think so.
Okay.
I didn't actually get to see what they did, but I'm guessing they just sat around a lot about it.
Lots of it, yeah. What about Cullen? Did he ever marry?
Yeah, he had a wife and 11 children.
11 children. Okay. What about David Hume?
No,
You didn't see it because he wasn't that attractive. Right?
I don't know who would have married him, but
Okay.
maybe someone did. I don't know.
Well, he does have a long time relationship with a woman who lived with him. So anyway, yeah, Chloe's saying big fat atheist who's gonna want to. Okay, so Robertson marries his cousin. Do they have children?
Yeah, it's
6. Okay. Wow. Okay. Cullen still got him beat though. Okay. So William Robertson writes a history of America that people don't like. And what about Adam Smith?
The most important person out of all of them.
Why do you say that?
He's the founder of like modern.
So is that you saying that, or do you have some
That's-
source that said Adam Smith?
That's my personal opinion.
Okay, Adam Smith, most important of all of them. So why?
So he develops like modern economic theory, but this is like after, well, not like after, but he writes the most famous book, The Wealth of Nations, and he publishes it in 1776.
Okay.
And it basically goes into all of his ideas on like modern capitalism and
Sure. Okay.
trade, basically just how the economy works.
By the way, something of importance to this group also happened in 1776. Did anyone get that? Okay, we'll come back to this. Had Adam Smith written anything of importance in the year 1759?
Yes, he wrote the theory of the moral sentiment,
Yeah.
I think it's called. And it went over the basics of human nature and what morality means. And in it, one of the things he discusses is that the freedom of a group of people will allow them to govern themselves better and live more harmoniously. And so we were pondering that maybe that sort of concept was brought up at this dinner and perhaps, thought of when they decided to rebel against the British for freedom to live more harmoniously in colonies.
Okay. Possibly. What else does he say in the theory of moral sentiments? I mean, I don't mean to grill you on a book you haven't read. I'm actually preparing you all to become academics where you can talk at great length about things about which you know nothing, or, commentators on news shows. There's a great demand for people to do that, to pontificate, as the saying goes. So why does someone write a book called The Theory of Moral Sentiments? I mean, it seems like moral sentiments are there. Why do you need a theory about them? I can see why, how the economy works, where ideas come from, nature of chemistry, history of Scotland, I'll even give you, but moral sentiments, I mean.
I think one of the things that was mentioned is like morality as a sixth sense and one sense of like what's right and what ought to be done and kind of just like you know, how people think and analyzing what human nature is about in regards to that, instead of just kind of viewing it as like, oh, well, people are motivated to do things in certain ways, but like why they are.
Exactly, exactly, yeah. Because this is exactly like trying to understand what electricity is or what light is. Here is something that we know, but how does it work? And that's really what Smith is getting at here, about how people interact and why they interact in certain ways. You know, it's a question Franklin asks a lot about, why don't people always do the right thing? And Smith is kind of getting at this in the theory of moral sentiment, about why people do interact in certain ways. I mean, this is one of the most fundamental things, but whoever thinks about it? Has anyone here thought about how you're motivated to do things? I think we are really good at knowing when other people are motivated in ways that don't really appeal to us, but we very rarely look at what motivates us. And by the way, didn't need Adam Smith to point this out. Much earlier philosopher had said something about seeing the mote or speck in your brother's eye, but not the beam in your own eye. That is, we all have certain biases and other things that motivate us. So you're trying to understand this and trying to understand how people operate, which is an extraordinary thing to try to pin down. And I think it's actually, I like what you're saying about this being an underpinning to an idea about self-government, but it's actually much more profound than that. It really deals with all kinds of human relationships, which are still something of a mystery. By the way, 1759 also, William Robertson published his History of Scotland. And Hume and Robertson, we started off by talking about Hume as a philosopher, and these works of history really also are works of moral philosophy that is trying to understand how the world operates, which is something we'll come back to then in 17 years with The Wealth of Nations, where Smith is getting at these economic relationships. Okay, well, this has actually been very helpful. It makes me feel better about, well, not that the purpose of you coming here twice a week is to make me feel better, although I do appreciate that as a side benefit. But I think we've gotten at something involving, and it was the phrase Scottish Enlightenment came up a couple of times, so presumably that was a thing. And now I'm getting the sense from your actions that it's time to go. Would I be wrong in saying that? Okay, good. Then it is, I guess, time to go. So I will see you a week from today. We'll be back. You will see each other in some way on Thursday to work on your project, and it's been good to see you. Not good enough that you're going to stay until 4 o'clock, but I understand you have a lot.
Are you feeling better?
I'm feeling fine. I've been feeling fine for